it's never been so important for humans to lean on their human skills, their empathy, their connection, their trust, their collaboration. How do we completely abolish repetition? How do we completely abolish boredom from our people and bring people back to doing what people do so well, which is problem solving?
Hi and welcome to Trailblazers. Today, you might notice a familiar face. I am here with Bianca Errigo. Bianca, for those that may not have seen our first episode, give us a little intro.
So good to be back, first and foremost. Thank you so much for having me, year 2.
Happy to have you.
Means that I'm still in existence, so that's that's a great feeling. Sure, Bianca Errigo. I'm a global speaker, wellbeing expert, founder of HumanOS. We are a health optimization platform that sits at the intersection of powerful technology and human coaching services. And we're on a mission to support organizations in their journeys of what we call sustainable high performance. Have definitely not always been in wellbeing, as you know. Background in psychology, started my career in tech sales. Terminal illness and passing of my father led me to my own health-related issues, hospitalization, and that led me to begin my wellbeing journey. Started off in coaching, 12,000 one-to-one coaching hours, then started my corporate wellbeing consultancy about 6 years ago. Do a lot of work with global organizations at the time, Dell, Cisco, American Express, Snapchat, University of Cambridge. Then that led me to see probably what we're going to discuss a lot today around actually the challenges we're seeing in the workplace and this huge discrepancy between all the solutions that are out there and the way that all the data and employee wellbeing direction and performance is going. So that sort of led to the basis of HumanOS around 3 years ago.
You've been looking a lot at workplace wellbeing recently, and in fact have just delivered this incredible report. You've just done a load of videos, and that's soon to be released. What have you learned? What stimulated that report? You know, fill us in on kind of like where that whole process came from. The work that you obviously were doing with HumanOS was a massive step into that.
Yes.
So give us the full lowdown.
Totally. So with HumanOS, we always want to add a layer of validity to anything we do. As we all know, there is so many workplace wellbeing development solutions out there. We try to not even call ourselves a workplace wellbeing solution because I don't even like the term, and I don't like what's associated with that term, and I don't believe we are. We do things so differently to such a different level. With that, it's a very competitive market, and there's a lot of organizations that have historically got away with not doing the job they are meant to be doing. So we very much, although we want to be a successful organization and really start to drive change within the workplace, we also believe in giving others the tools to do that as well. We believe that the more we can raise everyone up, the more change we create, the more impact that's had, and the quicker we get to a culture and a approach to the workplace once again that is sustainable. And so when we do a report white paper every year. Our report last year was, why does your workplace wellbeing strategy suck?
Mm-hmm.
And it looked at where a lot of organizations were going wrong and what they could be doing to overcome that, to build a more effective strategy based on their individuals, their organizations as sort of individual organizations. This year, we wanted to go even deeper. So in partnership with Howlett Brown, who are an incredible people intelligence services organization, they're a customer of ours. So myself and Charlene, the CEO, we were constantly having conversations around what they were seeing in their work, what we were seeing in our work, and these key themes that continue to come up. And so we wanted to create a report that actually understands what is going on in the workplace right now, what has led to this point, particularly over the past 5 years and all the events that we've seen happened, socio-political, economic, so much change has gone on post-pandemic, social movements, like everything you can think of has sort of gone on over the past 5 years, the huge technological change. And so we wanted to look at, okay, what has actually happened over the sort of past 5 years? where are we now and how do we move forward effectively? And for us, this is absolutely fundamentally not possible without taking an intersectional lens.
So one of the things that really stood out to me when I was reading the report and I was going through some of the statistics, in the report it mentioned that there's many companies that actually have some sort of well-being or wellness policy.
53% have standalone policies.
But only 27% of those
Measure.
actually have any sort of measurement that's associated with it.
Totally.
So, and the other thing that I really loved about the report was that, as you said, it wasn't just a list of, well, this is the state of things and this is, you know, how bad it is. You actually give solutions. So given that's one of the key challenges, right? So you've got this 53% that they actually have something, but only 27% of those actually do anything with it.
Yeah.
What would be some kind of step changes for those organizations that are looking to actually measure, actively engage? What would be those measurements? And then let's just say that you're one of the other 47% of companies that realizes, okay, we need to take better care of our staff. What do we need to start doing and actively engage in that conversation to be effective so that they don't become one of those other companies that have this initiative but do nothing with it?
Yeah, that is a huge question. And I love it. Yeah, so the reality is now that people on average are spending 90,000 hours at work, on average about 45 years at work. So we are spending more time ever in the workplace than we ever have done. And I personally believe the way we have built our organizations at the moment is extremely outdated. Our organizations and the companies and their processes are built like they're still living in an industrial revolution in which the output was, how can we mass produce these products as fast as possible? That's all they had to do, was we need to create a product, we need to create as much of that product, and we need to do so as quickly as possible to beat our competitors. But we're no longer living in a industrial revolution. We're living in a artificial intelligence revolution. We're living in a technological revolution. And so the skills and the environments and the systems that are needed now are so far beyond what was needed then. We need communication, we need collaboration, we need innovation, creativity. All these human skills are needed if organizations want to be the most disruptive and the most successful. How are you ensuring that your people have balance? I don't like the term work-life balance. I don't believe work-life balance exists. I believe it puts pressure on people to have this perfect set of time and energy and this perfect routine in life, and actually becomes a pressure point. But what I do believe in is work-life integration. Coming back to those seasons in your life, what is the right routines for you right now? So what does that integration look like? So how are you ensuring that your people have the time and the energy to engage with other areas of their life outside of work, so that actually when they're at work, they can show up and want to show up? Because we know those two things are not separate anymore. Whatever is going on in your personal life is going to impact your work life. Whatever's going on in your work life is going to impact your personal life. So how are you ensuring that balance? Belonging. The number one predictor of high performance is psychological safety. Look at Google's Project Aristotle, largest research project in this area. Consistently outdoing and outperforming anything is psychological safety. And looking at that through an intersectional lens, because that means how are you ensuring everyone within your organization feels seen, heard, valued, safe to take risks without consequences, safe to speak up without repercussions. So balance, belonging, and then development. And this is particularly important with the younger generations. People want to feel like they are growing personally and professionally. So how are you building their job-based skills, their human-based skills? Because by 2030, 30% of the workforce are going to be Gen Z. And so actually, how are you meeting the needs of this generation coming through who want to be co-creators, who want purpose, who want value, who want alignment? And that's a pretty good start to then build your foundations from.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful acronym, you know, balance, belonging, development. And it actually speaks to so many different areas, and there's so many different ways in which we can kind of like dive into any one of those different topics. I completely agree with you. This concept of work-life balance is a misnomer. Actually, there is no such thing. No. It's only what suits your lifestyle and your goals and what you're trying to achieve right now. And this kind of arbitrary view that you should be doing this, you should be doing this. I think perfection is an illusion.
Correct.
Whereas process is the reality. And the process that you go through that's right for you, and learning to love that process if that's the thing that you're, you know, working towards, and you've got this goal to, you know, yes, you maybe want to crush this quarter, but then the next quarter you want, actually when you're self-aware enough to know that you want to take that step back because you've achieved the goal that you set yourself.
We actually have customers now, which is so cool, actually embedding that into the strategy of their organizations. So they'll say to them, this is they have like a dial for where they are in their business year of where they need people to perform. And they actually encourage them on that dial, like, okay, we're at 100 this quarter, let's go. We're at 75 this quarter. Hey, this is a recovery quarter. And they're actually ingraining that into the mindset of the people, and their performances are just skyrocketing.
I mean, this reminds me so much, and this is obviously a world that we love and have a lean towards. It's like periodization.
Yeah.
Like it's periodization of a training plan.
Yes.
You know, you have your strength phase, you have your kind of like hypertrophy phase, you'll have your recovery, you know, you have those deload weeks.
Totally.
It's a very similar concept, but in a workplace situation. You're being kind to the team and creating those kind of, as you say, with those dials, you're looking at, okay, this quarter we want to do this. Next quarter we're going to shift focus, but it only happens if you're actually measuring where people are.
Totally.
So what are some of those measurements that people should be looking at if you're going to implement something like this in your workplace? You know, what are the things that you should be kind of like looking at? As you said, first and foremost, you've got to establish that baseline.
Yes.
And you can obviously with HumanOS, you can help people do that. But then what are those things that people should be looking at measuring to gauge performance on a long-term basis outside of just the usual KPIs of performance, right?
Totally.
We all know that those pressures are there. I want to go on the human side of things.
On the human side of things, and another area we're starting to see a lot of success is actually not just on what you are measuring, but how you are measuring it. So we're seeing moving from this sort of me to we mentality, measuring the team. If you want people to come together again, if you want to create those relationships, that creativity, that discussion, that effective conflict, because conflict isn't a bad thing when done in the right manner, and actually it often leads to the best ideas. So actually, are you measuring people as individuals, or are you start taking a more team mentality and allowing them to come together? And what that also does is then people can rely on each other, because if someone is going through a divorce, through an illness, they're about to get married, all of these absolute real life scenarios that's going to take your focus away from work, it actually means that they can rely on those in their team, so the team can continue to exceed on the business goals. And again, we're seeing so much success by this sort of me to we mentality, and it takes the stress off people. If you are going through something really, really challenging, you're then not worrying about what does that mean for your job. You know, oh, actually the team are going to step up on this one, and then I do the same for them.
Well, it's the same thing in high performing. I mean, if we were to compare the situations, kind of like almost like a military example, right? You know, you've got operational teams like Navy SEALs or SAS. It's about the collective excellence of the team.
Elite sports, like elite level, like exactly. When you all see the best performers in the world, they all have that mentality.
100%. I mean, I think it's one of the things that I do believe was probably the foundation of, you know, Leicester City, right?
Yeah.
So they had that outlier win of the Premier League, which no one saw coming.
Yeah, iconic.
But they were a team.
Yes.
They performed as a team. They won as a team. They, you know, did everything together. And you can see a little bit of magic in that. And if you can create even just the tiniest bit of that in your team at work, I do think that you will see, as you said, like, was it 9 trillion? Something absurd. Like the value that you can then generate off the back of that is just huge.
Yes. And so when it comes down to, well, how are you giving people purpose? not every organization is going to have an amazing purpose-driven strategy or product or service. That's also okay. But actually, how are you giving people the accountability? How are you ensuring that they feel their work is meaningful and that they have an impact in part of something much larger? And it doesn't matter if you're a company of 10 people, 100, 10,000, 100,000 plus. How are you giving that person the responsibility to say what you do matters? And we are giving you X, Y, and Z, the training, the balance, the psychological safety, the like-minded others, whatever it might be, to say, we are wanting to support you to do your job to the best of your ability. And this is why it matters.
Yeah. I think this reminds me of that old story, and it's old, but it's a good one. The difference between the two work people on a building site who are working on a cathedral, and you've got two different guys asked, what are you doing? They're both stone cutters. One says, I'm just cutting this rock. The other, I'm building a monument to God. Like, it's that fundamental shift in perspective. You're contributing to something that is greater than yourself, or that you see a higher calling towards. If companies can help foster and nurture that, and then, as you say, I think that comes back down to also hitting those three pillars. You're creating that environment of balance. And then the big part of it that I think we haven't touched so much on is that development part, where it's actually, you very elegantly said there, not many Gen Zs want to be managers, or they're not looking to actively become managers because they don't see the active. But that doesn't mean that they don't want to stop. They don't want to continue to develop.
Of course.
You need to give them the space and grace in order to actually still develop their career and still develop in the verticals or the areas that they want to. That might mean that they're more of an individual contributor.
Totally.
They're not managing people because they don't want to. But it doesn't also mean that you can't then have them surprise you later when, because they've developed more skills, they get more confident, and confidence therefore builds this other skill set that becomes leadership. Because leadership isn't just about it's anything other actually than pushing people. It's guiding, it's mentoring, it's all of those things.
And then that goes straight back to, well, what should companies be measuring outside of the usual KPIs? How are you measuring actually understanding how your people want to progress? Do you know what their motivations are? Because once you know your motivations, then you can measure them based on that. Understand, what does that internal mobility look like? What does that career progression look like outside of just the conventional path to promotion that a lot of people don't want? The hands are going now. Sorry.
No. I love it. It's when we start getting into the real nitty gritty and the things, because it's these things that really matter. Unfortunately, we're. I think there was this thing. I think it was Daniel Carnegie. How to Win Friends and Influence People, or something like that. When he got to the end of his life and he spent time with all of the richest people in the world, and he himself was incredibly well off, he was no better at controlling his emotional decisions, having spent all of this time and studying human behavior. He was no better at doing that than he was before. Now, this brings me to the point that actually I think there is that kind of inherent emotional nature to humans, and I think that sense of belonging, that sense of that emotional component is so vital. And we can look at how we tell the story in statistics as to how bad this situation is, but I also think that the important part, and the thing that you've done really well with it, is you've brought in that emotional lens. You've actually looked at how people feel and encouraged more dialogue and more communication. What's some of the things that you've found, that you've seen, that are actually giving you a cause for optimism? I mean, we've spoken about the negative aspects of things, but what are some of those positive things that you're seeing, and give us some light at the end of the tunnel?
Of course. And Ryan Melanti, CEO of LinkedIn, puts this so beautifully. And this is not word for word, but when someone asked him about AI and all the technological change, he said it's never been so important for humans to lean on their human skills, their empathy, their connection, their trust, their collaboration. And I think that the companies that are doing the best right now are really leaning into that. If only 10% of the workforce are engaged at work, Why are we not grabbing this opportunity of both hands and saying, how do we completely abolish low value tasks? How do we completely abolish repetition? How do we completely abolish boredom from our people and bring people back to doing what people do so well, which is problem solving, working together, creativity. And I don't mean just creativity like going and painting a pretty picture. You can if you want, that's great. I will not. But creativity in business and actually being able to think outside the box. And so for us, where we're seeing the most progress and the most positive impact is organizations really investing in that communication piece, actually getting to understand their people, communicating with them very clearly. This is what's going to happen. We are open to your thoughts, open to your feedback. This is why we believe this is the right thing to do. Being honest with them. You will not finish at 5 p.m. every day. You will not get away in this job without making sacrifices. This will be stressful at times. This will be hard at times. But this is what we give you to be able to deal with that effectively. And so actually, it's a game of give and take, like any successful relationship, like a marriage, like a friendship, like whatever it may be. You have to make compromises and you have to communicate well. Otherwise, there is no positive output. So the companies and organizations right now that are doing the best amidst this huge and rapid change are the ones that are saying, how are we communicating with our people? How are we ensuring they feel safe, feel valued, feel heard? How are we meeting those needs? And then how are we working together to hit these North Stars?
Yeah. And I think this is something that we see a lot, you know, when we're working on internal communications in particular, having that transparency, having that trust is, as you say, it's vital, because what it serves is it serves you this ability to draw the red thread of value that that person or that individual is contributing to the organizational mission. So when they feel connected to that and they can see the clear pathway through that, and the organization is being transparent about the fact that, look, we have lofty goals. We want to achieve a certain level of impact. That doesn't mean that you're going to be able to go home every day at 5 p.m. Yes. We're not going to lie to you, and we're not going to say that that's going to be possible, because with any big goal comes some necessary sacrifice.
We have a lot of customers in the States now. It's one of our sort of fastest growing areas for HumanOS. There is such a need for it, particularly with everything that's going on with the DEI policies and sort of the backward steps that's being taken there. So I think a lot of organizations are very much actually now approaching us like, how are we looking after our people within all of this? I think there's a very different mentality between the States and the UK as well. The UK, I do believe, is still, we have a lot of people within decision-making seats and responsibilities that really care about this stuff, but still so many of them, when it comes down to the budget sign-off, it doesn't happen. Actually, no, we couldn't get it past this person. Actually, no, we just don't have the budget for it this year. Actually, you know, we've not had a good quarter. And so it's a constant battle to actually, you say you care, you say you love, whether it's HumanOS or whatever the solution may be, but actually, if we look at it, that only 2 to 4% of employees engage with EAPs. 4 out of 5 people were rejected by EAPs when they actually need therapy. Like, what we are currently doing is so broken, and there needs to be a change, and it still feels like such an upward hill battle sometimes to get that change to actually occur.
Sorry, for just clarification for those that may not understand the acronym.
Employee Assistance Program. And so they're like sort of one of the most common places when it comes to workplace wellbeing strategies for companies that do have it. And so I think, you know, in the States, they're a lot more open to the conversations. They move a lot faster. They like it. They buy it. Same as someone who's raised investment. This is like the investor mentality is totally different.
I heard this analogy of the UK and Europe is that it's a perpetual state of maybe.
Honestly.
And whereas, as you say, completely in the US, it's very much, this has utility, this has value, I see it,
like it, like that person, like the solution, like the product, like the price, buy it. The UK, like it, like that person, like the solution, like the product, maybe buy it next year.
Let's look at it next quarter.
Yeah,
We're
totally.
going to push this into next quarter's budget.
Yeah, exactly. And so then it comes back to, well, organizations, like how you can't just keep kicking the can down the road. Now, this isn't about purchasing HumanOS, which you absolutely should do, but it's actually about how are you taking those steps to understand what is going on? Get the data. There is no excuse now for any organization not to have the data on actually how their employees are feeling. So you start making strategic decisions based on the data of your people.
100% agreed. Bianca, I always learn so much whenever we get to sit down and have a chat. If people want to find out more, if they want to start setting that baseline, if they want to engage with HumanOS, where should they go? How can they find you?
So Bianca Errigo on LinkedIn, humanos.co.uk is our email and website. And yeah, that's the best place to get us, really.
And where can they download the Wellbeing Report, which I think is essential reading and soon to be viewing for anyone?
Sure. So we'll put a link in these notes, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And then also it's on our website and it's constantly being popped up on LinkedIn as well. So it's easy to find at this point.
Incredible.
Workplace Wellbeing Deficit 2025.
Amazing. Bianca, it's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine.